The school is the main lever with which to lift a nation out of barbarism to civilized habits and a Christian life. The Indians proved by their subsequent conduct that they were earnest in their desire to have a Catholic school.
In the wake of the Civil War, it was clear that the federal government's Indian policy had failed. By the end of the century, a policy of assimilation was seen as the only available alternative to annihilation. The goal was to reshape natives into Thomas Jefferson's yeoman farmer. Families were given allotments of land to farm while their children attended boarding school. The Holy Rosary and St. Francis mission schools, located on the Pine Ridge and Rosebud reservations in South Dakota, attempted to instill the values of Catholicism and Western civilization among the Lakota people. The Society of Jesus and the Franciscan Sisters led the Catholic charge in educating the children of the reservations.
Our main endeavor is to give the children a good moral education, to teach them the fear and love of God, to restrain their evil inclinations, and to avoid all that which characterizes a bad citizen.
These Jesuit mission schools stressed Catholic, moral education in the classroom along with rigorous schedules and manual labor.
Naturally, it was a Catholic school, so we went to church every morning before we had our breakfast. Besides our school lessons, we had a lot of religion that was taught to us by the priests and the nuns.
One student remembers the success of the system in his later life as a priest.
When we come to the religious part of our life, everything hinges on the training we got here at St. Francis. I got a good, thorough religious education. I kept it pretty good.
Students also learned basic reading and writing skills, further cementing Christian values. Using Catholic theology and Western education, Jesuit mission schools embodied the purpose of their society. In addition to traditional classroom education, Lakota children learned practical skills for future success in the home and the workplace.
From the beginning of the mission, it has been our endeavor to induce the Indians to work, to plow, and to gain their food by tilling the soil. The garden and the farm at the mission were object lessons to them.
Girls were taught what administrators deemed all the occupations that find place in a thrifty and well-regulated home, such as sewing, cleaning, cooking, laundering, and other basics. While the girls focused their attention on the home, the boys acquired more masculine skills. They learned how to cobble shoes, farm, and garden, along with more mechanical skills, like carpentry and building maintenance. Outside of the classroom, Jesuits organized recreational activities. Girls played field hockey and basketball, while the boys could be found on the shooting range, practicing their marksmanship. The young men participated in organized sports like football, baseball, and basketball. St. Francis was especially well known for its basketball prowess. One student, C.P. Jordan, was praised for his athletic ability in the Chicago Daily Tribune. I used to dance before the basketball games when I was only about 6 years old. The paper in my high school years said, "He came here to entertain by his dancing, but you should see him now. He's entertaining by his playing." St. Francis used to have the top basketball team in the country. While he may have exaggerated the team's success, he was honored as a member of the All-American Catholic team. While the Jesuits emphasized moral and practical education, physical activity became an integral part of the students' daily life. While the Jesuit mission schools served as a good opportunity for Lakota children, they were also plagued with problems. Overcrowding and disease proved to be a continuing obstacle. While buildings were always updated, Students could be found sleeping in attics or common areas with beds placed wall to wall and end to end. Conditions were perfect for the spread of diseases. Tuberculosis, measles, and influenza ran rampant in the boarding schools. The Spanish influenza outbreak of 1918 interrupted the daily activities of both St. Francis and Holy Rosary, infecting over half the school's population in a 6-month period. Death was such a significant aspect of daily life that each school maintained its own cemetery for the students in attendance. The stress of living under the shadow of death, the rigors of daily life, and extreme homesickness wore down students' morale.
I used to cry when my parents left. One sister would be standing there at the door overlooking everybody. And somehow, I sensed that she disapproved if I cried after my parents. And so I would sit down in a corner and I would cry inside where people could not see me. Nobody saw my hurt. Nobody saw my pain.
Boarding school life was made even more difficult for new students who didn't speak English.
When I first walked on this campus here, I couldn't talk. I didn't know one word of English. There was a time when they wanted us to become white man. That was a mistake. I remember when we were punished here for talking Indian.
The environment of the Catholic boarding schools overwhelmed some students, compelling them to run away. From 1900 to 1930, 2 children a month attempted to escape. Off-campus excursions afforded boys more opportunities to make a break for it. Parents often returned their children to the school, regardless of their wishes. Lakota parents wanted the best for their children. They saw the Jesuit schools on the reservations as a better option than remote government boarding schools. Mrs. Jessie Eagle expressed the sentiments of many other parents on the Pine Ridge and Rosebud reservations in her letter to the Bureau of Catholic Indian Missions.
The boys have ran away once, and they don't like to stay at the government boarding school, so I would like to send them to St. Francis Mission. I wish you kindly help me to put them boys at Catholic school, because I am belongs to the Catholic religion.
While parents could express preference for the Catholic boarding schools, they could not determine the course of their children's education or discipline. The excessive beating of a 15-year-old boy caused a great reaction in the Lakota community.
I know whippings, but not like this one Lewis Hollow Hornbear get. I call this a horse whipping, or half-fisted, or salt, bruised, cut up, blue, choked, sprained, half-scourged. Can you stand such cruelty? This is no way for a theologian student from East to come out to West to the Indian Mission and treat our children like herds of animals.
However, less than a month later, the boys' parents signed a letter apologizing for their students' misconduct.
We, the undersigned, Daniel Hollow Hornbear and wife, hereby exonerate St. Francis Mission and the fathers involved of all cruelty to or maltreatment of our son Lewis. The punishment meted out to him by the prefect we now admit to have been just.
The only real power parents possessed was withdrawing their children from the schools. However, parents recognized that withdrawing their children deprived them of an education that would prepare them for a modernizing world. Both Catholic and government boarding schools served to bring Native Americans into the dominant culture. However, the Jesuit Catholic schools proved to be less aggressive in their attempts to westernize Lakota children. The Jesuits encouraged students to hold on to certain parts of their Lakota culture. They blended compatible aspects of Lakota life with existing Catholic tradition. For this generation of students, Catholic education created a bridge between two cultures. With Franklin Roosevelt's administration, a new Indian policy began to take shape. After 1934, government boarding schools adopted an emphasis on cultural retention, similar to what had already existed in the Jesuit schools. St. Francis Mission School was turned over to the Lakota in 1974, and Holy Rosary was renamed Red Cloud Indian School in 1969, ensuring the survival of Lakota culture on the two reservations. These two missions remain one example of the relationship between American natives, U.S. government policies, and religious missions. The Jesuits brought their strong commitment to education and discipline, along with good intentions. Lakota children brought a desire to learn and a commitment to maintaining their traditional culture. After many twists and turns, the Lakota children, who the Jesuits sought to lift from barbarism, survived and preserved their culture.